My name is Mariah. I go to Trinity Cambridge Church. I grew up in a family that went to church every week. My parents would also read us scripture in the morning, and I was pretty much surrounded by Christian activities and scripture and teachings about Jesus, so it was very familiar to me. However, I really did not have any desire to be a Christian. I saw a lot of hypocrisy in certain Christians, and then I also just thought a lot of what Christians did were really uncomfortable and weird. Before I was a Christian, I definitely had a lot of hate and anger and bitterness towards people. My mom signed myself and my two sisters up for a summer camp when I was 12. I knew it was a Christian camp and I really just had no desire to go. I thought it was going to be really weird and boring and didn't want to go, but she made us go anyways. The teachings I hated. I did not listen. I purposely did not listen to a single word that any of the pastors said, and I would constantly be looking at the clock and just waiting till the teaching was over and I could just get out of there. The last teaching session, I remember sitting down and I was so happy that this was going to be the last teaching session, and I just kept looking at the clock and just kept saying like, oh, I can't wait till this is over. So 15 minutes left in his teaching, and I'm like, yes, there's nothing that God can do to change my heart. And then the clock, it's 10 minutes left, and yes, there's nothing God can do. And 5 minutes left, there's no way God can change anything in my heart. I was just so resistant to having anything happen to me remotely Christian. And so the pastor finishes speaking, and the people who were, the musicians come up to do some songs of worship. And at this time, they also said, if you want to respond to this message, you can go up to the front and people will pray for you. And I remember thinking, that's so stupid. That's so embarrassing. Why would anybody do that? So I just closed my eyes during the music and was pretending to pray, pretending to worship, and the music just kept going on and on and on. And so finally I opened my eyes to see why the music just didn't end, and it seemed like I was like the only person still standing. Just all the aisles and all the front were covered with youth who were kneeling down, and pretty much everybody had left their seats to respond to the words of this pastor. And so just so that I wouldn't be seen or noticed, I crept out of my aisle to find a spot on the ground so that I could kind of blend in with the crowd. But when I did that, when I found a spot, and I had to hop over people because it was so crowded, when I found a spot and when I knelt down, I had this sense of, it was like a heavy stage curtain fell on top of me. It was like the weight of my sin fell on top of me, and I just started weeping and crying. And it was like this, in my mind, like this darkness fell over me, and I had this realization of how hateful and how sinful I was. There was this song that, it was about the prodigal son, and it went, I don't deserve to be your servant, and how much less to be your child. And as I was kneeling there weeping with this sense of weight and darkness, that line just kept playing over and over and over. I don't deserve to be your servant, and how much less to be your child. Eventually, my youth leaders came over and to pray with me, and they were asking what was going on, and so I was explaining to them, and they just explained that Jesus could save me. And I just remember, in the darkness and in this feeling of my sin, I could see Jesus, and he was surrounded by light. And I didn't really know how it worked or why it worked, but I knew Jesus was the only thing that could save me from my sin. And so they prayed over me, and I accepted Jesus into my heart. So I went home and I noticed that just a lot of the anger and bitterness was gone. And that was because Jesus had changed my heart. I think I've seen Jesus do so much to bring peace to different relationships and bring healing and love where I could not have done that before. And that's how Jesus changed my life.